Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Leadership in Politics with Dr. Abraham. With me today are my special guests, Dr. Dave Ulrich, father of our modern HR, Dr. Dick Beatty, professor of human resources, and Dr. Pat Wright, professor and researcher of human resources. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Welcome all. Dr. Dave, nice to see you again.
Great to see you, Abe. It's just, Dr. Abe, it's great to be a part of a dialogue that continues on how we show not only compassion, but also competitiveness in a workforce.
That's the good thing about you is every time I meet you, there's always initiatives here or there, and it adds value to the field that we're in. So welcome to this panel. I'm looking forward to hear your insights. Dr. Dick, what are we going to hear today? Tell me a little bit about yourself and to the audience, and what are we going to do today?
Well, after I finished graduate school, I went to the University of Colorado in Boulder and taught HR, wrote the first experiential book in HR, sold 200,000 copies of that book, and life changed for me because I had done that and won several awards. And did administrative duties, department chair, interim dean for a little while, a bunch of those kind of things. And then I got an offer to go to the School of Management and Labor Relations at Rutgers to run a global program that was an executive master's in HR. And I did that for 15 years, and we took 15 students around the world to introduce them to what's taking place and to also make sure that they did what was required to receive a master's degree. Almost all of that time, I was also teaching executive ed at Michigan with Dave. And so Dave and I have been partners and known each other for well over 40 years as we've, done a lot of things. And we did a lot of programs with change in organizations like with GE and GM and a bunch of other firms. So that's
I'm looking forward to that. Hey, Dr. Patrick Wright or Pat Wright, welcome.
Oh, thank you.
What are we sharing with the audience today?
Well, I mean, everybody knows Dave, and Dick talked a lot about the things that he's done in executive education. I am 13 years now in the Darla Moore School of Business at the University of South Carolina. During that time, I've started a couple of different executive education programs and also created the Center for Executive Succession, which is a partnership between about 55 companies and the university to focus on doing research, but really practical research around CEO succession processes. Prior to that, I was on the faculty at Cornell in the Industrial and Labor Relations School. And I, while there was for a while co-ran the executive education function. And then for 9 years, I was the director of the Center for Advanced HR Studies, which again is about 70 corporate partners. And we would do a number of executive ed type programs for those partner companies. And so really what we want to talk about today is, all of us have been doing executive ed for a number of years. And we're going to talk about this Global Human Resources Leadership Experience Program, which is kind of taking everything we've learned over the years and then kind of matching it to today's environment where there's such significant change in terms of global issues, technology, et cetera, and to be able to develop and implement a program that'll help senior HR leaders manage and navigate in that new environment.
That's very nice. Very good to hear. Welcome to all of you. Today, let's start with you. Global HR Leadership Experience. What is it?
Our development program doesn't start with the program. We start with the context. So I ask those thought leaders listening, turn on the TV. Can you predict what you're going to hear today? You might hear something about AI that's changing your world dramatically. You might hear something about politics, political toxicity, global competition, global struggles. You might hear about employee mental health, employee well-being. The world that we live in today is just so uncertain, and it's just hard to know what can I as a thought leader do to help the people in my company and my company succeed. So Dick, Pat, and I have said we call that an inflection point. It's a period where we need to update and integrate and move to go forward. And in organizations, executives are always worried not only about where we're going, but how do we get there? What's our strategy? How do we make it happen? Well, it's going to happen through people, organization, leadership, the issues, Abe, you talk about a lot. We call that human capability, the integration of people, that's human, capability, that's organization, and leadership brings it together. And the architects for that in companies, the owners are business leaders, the CEOs, as a thought leader, you're a CEO, you own that responsibility. But the architects and the coaches and the designers are the HR professionals. They design people, organization, leadership to respond to this unbelievable change we see. We've decided that we want to upgrade the next generation of HR leaders. How do we help them? How do we help them? Not just about compliance, not just about powerless, but about really delivering value to those we serve. And so if you're a thought leader and you're trying to get your organization to be more successful, we're going to help you turn to your HR professionals and give them the skills they need and the knowledge and the tools to build value. That's what we're trying to create in our program. And we think education is one of the means to get there. So that's the agenda at a high level. I know we'll flesh that out a little bit, but we hope that there's a group of business leaders out there saying, I want to serve my customers. I want my investors to get more value. I want my communities to get more value. What can I do to make that happen through my people, my organization, and my leaders?
Is this serving from in out or out in? What are we putting here?
Both.
Both.
Legacy, the legacy is in. For example, you're a business leader, your HR person says, I want to do a program on leadership.
Okay.
Actually, they should do one on compassionate leadership. I want to do a program on culture. Well, we would suggest that's not the starting place. The starting place is, I want to help build customer connection and get customers to buy our product. I want investors to have more confidence in our future. I want the communities where we live and work to think of us in a good way. And we're there going to build leadership, culture, talent in order to make that happen. So it's both in and out.
And out. Dr. Dick, HR manager, director, listening to us and looking at this presentation here, panel, what is it that you're providing to me? What are you providing to them? What are you adding to what's available now with this new initiative?
Oh, I think what we're asking is really building upon what David said, that we're in a world of change. And basically, you know, if you don't grow as an organization and if you don't grow as an individual, neither one of you are going to be happy. And so and Dave knows, I know, if you look back a few years to Fortune 500, only 10% of those firms are still around. So how do you, if you don't create customer and economic value, you're not going to survive. So what do you have to do to be able to do that? And organizations don't change themselves, people change organizations. And talent is a source of change. So how do we measure those? And how do we grow people? How do we decide who we're going to keep, who we're not going to keep? You know, all those tough kinds of decisions that organizations have to navigate through to be able to sustain and serve the other stakeholders, the communities and so forth that are very dependent upon those organizations. And perhaps now more than ever, we are at an inflection point in terms of organizational growth and competition as we see all the kinds of changes and initiatives and, you know, the kind of quarreling that's going around the world in terms of who does what, who owns what, who's going to pay what tariff and all those other kinds of things. We live in a world of, I think, big time change. So how do we have the insight to do that? And what kind of impact do we want to make? And how do we go about doing it?
Excellent. Pat, what is it that you may add to what Dr. Dave and Dick said?
So I think what I would say is, really trying to think about this in terms of how's it differentiated from, the plethora of other programs around right now, right? I mean,
Yes.
everybody has a program. And so as we started to put this together, there are really kind of four things. One is what Dave and Dick both referred to, and that is the focus is not just on, how do you treat employees, right? Which I think a lot of HR programs focus on, and not just about, how do you drive value and drive kind of financial performance for your investors, which again is a step ahead of where just focused on the employees are. But the third is, as Dave said, how do you create value for your customers that will actually drive economic value, and how do you create value for your communities? And so it's that stakeholder approach, I think, is one differentiating factor that we'll take into this. The second one is that This is going to be kind of an all-star cast of faculty members. If you think about the kinds of presenters that you get in a normal program, it might be a number of local faculty teaching the bulk of it, and then somebody who's a thought leader, a recognized thought leader, doing something. This is going to be almost all thought leaders. Some retired chief human resource officers who are just well thought of in the field as innovative thinkers. We'll have Ram Charan, to be able to talk about what do boards want from HR. We're working on some other folks that we can't, hopefully we'll get, but it'll be kind of an all-star cast of presenters. So learning from the best, I think, is the second differentiating characteristic. Third differentiating characteristic is the whole kind of global component to it, is that the way we want this program to be structured is that the participants come from around the globe and the presenters come from around the globe, so that it's not simply going to be kind of a US-based approach to how do you do things in HR today, but it's really going to be recognizing the global differences that exist and what are the principles that you can take into your role that will help you be able to say, okay, well, these are the principles, but how do they actually play out in this particular community or in this particular institutional environment? And so I think that's going to be a third characteristic that'll differentiate us from the other programs. And then last is just going to be this very experiential kind of coaching-based approach to it. So we'll have people that'll come in with projects that they're going to be working on. They will have coaches there while they're there. They'll have taken assessments. They'll have coaches to help coach them through the assessment and the project. And then after the 8-day experience, there'll be some continuing coaching over the next 90 days after that to kind of help them implement their project. So I think, those are four things that you might find one of them in a particular program. I think you'd be hard pressed to find all four in one program.
How are they? What's the format? Is it online? Is it in person? How are you going to do this?
Describe it as a 100-day experience. So prior to the in-person event, what we'll have is, they'll be taking assessments and we'll be going over some of the kind of ground rules and things, getting them prepared for the in-person. And then they'll spend 8 days on campus here at the University of South Carolina in our executive education facility, and just 8 straight days of, kind of working in groups, listening to the presenters, working on projects, building their networks. And then at the end of that 8 days, they'll go back, and that's when we'll have, it'll go back to probably doing a couple of virtual webinar type events, but continuing with that coaching on kind of how their project is progressing since they left the program, and what are the things they can do to make sure that project actually is effectively implemented.
So this is an all-star faculty managed led program. You mentioned University of South Carolina. But tell me, what's the connection there? Is it sponsored by it? Is it you're part of it?
Well, so I'm on the faculty here, and we've got. So I having spent a number of years at Cornell, which everyone tends to view as the top master's program in human resources. Since I've been here, we've really ramped up the HR program in terms of the master's program, to where the companies that recruit from both us and Cornell now say that our students are as good, if not better, than Cornell students. And why? Because we've got an outstanding HR faculty, some of the leading researchers in the world, but they're not just the ivory tower type researchers. They're researchers that are doing things that actually have impact and implications for organizations. The other thing about the Darla Moore School that makes it a unique kind of opportunity for a program like this is that for 26 straight years, we've had, according to U.S. News and World Report, the #1 international business program at the undergraduate level. And for 12 straight years, the #1 international MBA program. So international business is in our blood in the Moore School. And with the great HR program, it's like a perfect mix of bringing IB and HR together to give a new experience for people that'll come.
Now, with all due respect to the university, just mention Dr. Dave, and people will flock in. Huh?
I hope that's not. I hope that's.
Oh yeah,
by the way,
magnet. That's right.
No, we want to frame this that it's not Pat Wright, Dick Beatty, or Dave. If you're out there right now listening to this and you're obviously a thought leader, if you're in HR and you say, how can I take my career to the next level? Round you with ideas. You'll own that development. If you're a business leader, how can I help my organization win in a very tough marketplace? As Pat said, with investors, I want to be able to get a good investment result. I want to get a great customer result, a great community result. Send your HR person. We will leave them with ideas and tools and actions that will help you as the leader of your company use your talent better and use your organization better. That's what we're trying to do. The good news is we've done this. I don't know, Pat, the percent of companies usually surveyed or taught out of the Fortune 500 in the US. I'd love to say I probably worked with 60 or 70%. Dick, I don't know over your lifetime, the same. We've been in companies. We sometimes get accused, you're academics. And then I say to them, so how long have you been the head of HR at your company? 5 years. I've worked with the 2 previous ones as well. So you're my 3rd head of HR in your company. We're proud of academics because Pat is probably the leading scholar in the HR world that people know. He brings discipline and rigor with an academic bias. Dick and I try to turn those kinds of ideas into practice, but we're not here to tell you what we know. We are here to help the participant build their plan for themselves to be better and for their company to succeed in a marketplace.
Absolutely, absolutely. But also knowing the background, the individuals and leaders that leading such a program is very beneficial and helpful. I mean, there's a trust that is built from the start.
Let me say why that's so important. Dick and I have done over 100 of these 2-week kind of programs at Michigan. One of the things we've learned is you get a faculty score in every session, and then you get an overall program score. So the average faculty score is 4.2 out of 5, and the program is 4.6. That 0.2 to 0.6 is the integration of ideas. This is Dick Beatty's superpower. He takes people's individual ideas and integrates them into a personal and organizational action plan. By the way, we're not satisfied at 4.2 and 4.6. We should have said 4.5 and 5.0, but we are going to build programs with great faculty. But the community that gets built, the team that gets built, and they last. And we are so excited to bring that skill set with theory from Pat Wright and colleagues at South Carolina, with practical application that we've done, and with building a community of learners who work together to move the field forward.
Excellent. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Have a pleasant day. Audience, thank you. We'll see you next time.